Don't let me down, baby. That's depressing. I don't really know exactly what I'm doing. I'm just doing this so if I mess up, you guys can learn from my mistakes. So something to note as well is for indications of this problem that you are having are the check engine light aren't coming on when you turn the key, and also your car's not starting. So those are the symptoms that I'm having, and I'm hoping that it's going to solve my problem. What's up, jabronis? I'm going to be showing you guys how to do the 1995 Jeep YJ. Well, I'm going to be attempting to do the 1995 Jeep YJ circuit board for the ECU, PCU, whatever you want to call it. Here it is right here. We're going to be changing out these capacitors, so a little bit of soldering work. Another thing to note is that there's about 2 other YouTube videos out there that are showing location of where this is. It'll be encased in a box like this, and this is just potting. This is just like potting silicone. I guess it matters. It's not like it is 100% silicone, but they call it potting. I don't know why. But they do, and it does matter what you use, what silicone you do use. There's actually a thread on Jeep Forum of a guy that does this build, or that does this fix, and he had to go back and redo the connections because they rusted out. I'm a welder, I'm not a solderer. It's kind of the same, a little bit, not too much. So, since we're changing out these capacitors, I went ahead and got these ones here. These are, so 220 UF 35 volt. That's what these are. That's what are commonly installed nowadays. They don't make the ones that are already in here. They are significantly smaller, but I was warned about that on the forums. So, yeah, let's get started on this thing. So this is the capacitor, and it looks like the negative side is going to be the short leg of this, and sometimes I guess they do have a negative side marking, the white strip, so that is going to be the negative side. So I think to actually pull this out here, so this is the potting that I was talking about. This stuff is very difficult to actually get rid of completely. It took me a variety of tools, some of these, some of those. This one was actually the most useful, and it's used for a cell phone. Get some of this guy here, which is just copper wire, and I do have like a sucker tool. I got a kit on Amazon for like 22 bucks, and it came with a solder. It came with like a sucker thing to suck the solder off, and I personally don't like that as like I've actually done. I'm just fanning out the teeth right now on this thing, or fanning out because it works better that way. And then I'm gonna dip it in some flux that I got for like $9 off Amazon. I have also done some sweating, which is piping, copper piping for some jobs, and I'm okay at that. So, and I'm a welder. I've welded a lot of stuff, so I think I'll be okay. This just kind of keeps out, it's kind of like flux core welding, or gas welding. It keeps the oxygen and moisture of the air out of it. I'm so worried of cooking this board. So these are the pins here. This took me about 4 hours to actually open this stuff up. So I'm just gonna put this guy over the pin, and then the copper should soak it up. It looks like some of the tin of the solder is actually indeed coming off. Alright, so at this point what I'm doing is I got this one here. This is the same one that we were working on. I found it that I think I got it off, but I'm not 100% sure. We'll see if it works, but dip my copper in the flux here. I just kind of wrap it around like that, and then I have my little solder iron, and I believe I need to crank it up because it takes so long, but oh yeah, I'm gonna turn on my fan. Sorry, you won't be able to hear me because I'm gonna have to turn on the fan because these fumes will kill me. Alright, so I was able to get the two out using that little process that I was a little dip in and with the copper. Definitely mine does not burn hot enough. Definitely you need to be burning at probably like 500 to 600 to 700, something up there, because it's recommended 700 from the forum. But I guess mine, I didn't get one that burned hot enough, but also I don't really know how to solder neither, so don't really know what I'm doing. But I switched to a thinner tip. Yep, definitely working. I just got all of that on one run. It just worked. Yeah, so for those of you who don't have like a non like Chinese, just some better solder, definitely crank it up as hot as it goes. Mine goes 450. Melted powder. That smells like fish. That's heavy. Alright, let's see if it'll. Let's see if this guy will come out. Okay. Heat up the joint and work him out. There he goes. Booyah. Oh, was that out of frame? What a bastard. Remember correctly, the negative side of this guy goes towards the tower, which is what I call it because I don't know what it's called. Often in times you can identify the negative end because one of the legs are shorter, and the positive end is going to be the long legs. So that's also another way to identify. And then I'm just putting it through the board, and then I'm tweaking it out like so, just so that it stays in. I don't have to worry about it. And from all my research that I've done, and please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong here, but you pre-solder the tip with a little solder. That is a dirty tip. Huh. I might have to clean that. But you pre-solder it, and then as you get close in, you just dab it. So it's important to make sure that the temperature of the holes of the board are hot enough, like the board is hot enough to mix with the solder that you are actually putting in. So also flux, like I said, is super important, because flux is right here, this guy. Flux is also super important because it's going to keep the outside air from getting into it. You're supposed to dip this in the solder, then do that, but whatever, dude. So let's get a little pre going here, shall we? Maybe not over the board. Alright, boy. So what I have here is what you would call a cold joint, for sure. That is definitely a cold joint, and I fucked it up. So we want to see if we can get rid of that. We're going to try that again. Yeah, see, what I did was a cold joint, for sure. I also added too much. It was too blobby. So that's not the way to do it. We know that now. That's good. So I'm gonna let that one cool off for just a second. My camera's not high def enough, but that is what you were looking for. So you don't want it to be a cold joint. That's because it's all surfacey. You want it to have a little bit more than that, a little bit more balls to it. But the good news is that we're getting a pretty shiny pass here. So that means that the flux is working really well. Also, something to note that the wire I'm using here is 2.0 flux, so it actually has flux inside of the soldering stuff, and the width is 60/40. The forum that I read, which will be attached to this, that's what he used as well, and he was I think he's like an engineer, so like a young 18-year-old engineer guy. So I mean, what the heck, man? I don't really know what I'm doing. I bet he probably knows a little bit more. Hopefully I'll learn something. You know, I learned a lot from that guy. That guy was rad. So I just did one more pass through. I feel pretty confident in my work. Maybe the dabs could be a little bit bigger, but I mean, I like it. I think it looks good, and then we'll just find out if it actually, you can't even see it. And then we'll just find out if it actually works. I'm gonna go ahead and do this guy here and this guy here, and we'll be good to go. And obviously, remember, the negative side's gotta be going towards this tower. So we got 1, 2, and 3. All 3 are in. This is the 60-pin connector thing here that's going to be connected to the wire harness thing. And then here's my case. So we're going to go ahead, slide this in the case. I'm not going to re-gel it yet or re-pot it, because if it didn't work, then I might try one more time. Maybe I didn't do a connection properly, you never know. So, and to get this thing out is kind of tough, but I mean, it doesn't have any screws or anything. You just have to dig around the sides, and then it'll just pop right out. So, so we got all 3 in here. And let's try strapping this bad boy into the Jeep and see if it works. Alright, so right now we are on the driver's side of the Jeep. This is the brake booster and master cylinder. Right down in here is where the computer lies. And this is the 60-pin connector. And this guy right here is the computer board. And it has its little case that'll go over it, like this. Is it upside down? What a freaking moron to deal with. I am using a 5/16. I believe it's also the equivalent of a number 8. What the heck are you doing, boy? So, first sign of if we fixed it, it's gonna be light for this emergency whatever light comes on, engine light. Oh. Okay, so the check engine light is now on. Please, baby, come on. Don't let me down, baby. So that wasn't my problem. But we got the check engine light back on. Well, at least we got the check engine light to work again. Good experience overall. I guess it's just on to the next thing. That's why my car isn't starting. Could be the starter, could be something else. So I guess it's just on to the next one with this guy. But if you guys have any questions or anything, and also if you guys have any recommendations for better ways to solder, definitely let me know, because I don't really know what I'm doing. But anything would be super appreciated. Alright, good brownies, see you later.